Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's explainer. We're taking a trip to Mannar, down in Kerala, to look at the life of a truly incredible 78-year-old master artisan. Today, we're going to break down his daily reality, but more importantly, we're looking at how his family's specific brass crafting techniques have evolved and actually survived across centuries. So what happens when a centuries-old craft meets the modern world? It's a huge question, right? And it really sets the stakes for everything we're about to explore. I mean, what happens when a tradition that relies on generations of passed-down, hard-earned knowledge suddenly collides head-on with the hyper-efficient, mass-produced reality we live in today? Does that tradition just vanish? Or does it adapt and survive in the hands of a few super-dedicated masters who absolutely refuse to let the fire go out? Keep that in the back of your mind as we get into the life and work of this amazing artisan.
Section 1. The Last Brass Master, a Legacy in Mannar.
60. That is the number of years this artisan has spent handcrafting traditional brass oil lamps. 60 years. For over 6 decades, way before the sun even comes up, he's been practicing a craft that his family hasn't just been doing for years or even decades, but literally for centuries. He's like a living bridge to an entire lineage of artisans, representing the absolute peak evolution of a craft that his ancestors have refined blow by blow over hundreds of years. Just imagine the sheer, unbelievable dedication it takes to wake up every single day and perform this incredibly demanding physical labor. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to kind of picture the atmosphere of his centuries-old workshop. Imagine this scene at dawn. He unlocks the heavy, weathered doors of a traditional foundry. The air is thick. You can hear the furnace crackling to life. And pretty soon you've got glowing orange molten brass, the sound of rhythmic hammering echoing off the walls, and these bright flying sparks cutting right through the dim morning light. It's this intensely sensory, almost cinematic environment. We are so far removed from a sterile modern factory here. This is raw, authentic, elemental creation at its finest. And what exactly is he making in this incredible environment? Well, he's handcrafting traditional brass oil lamps. But these aren't just your everyday run-of-the-mill objects. He's using sourcing and crafting techniques that have slowly evolved through generations of his family. These lamps are deeply, fundamentally tied to the culture of Kerala. They're destined for really sacred spaces, temple courtyards, local homes, vibrant village festivals. When evening ceremonies happen across Kerala's lush coconut groves and riverbanks, it's actually his brass lamps that are holding the flame.
Section 2. Generational Crafting Techniques, from Molten Metal to Masterpiece. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it breaks down the macro details of this incredible process.
So let's literally walk step by step through his day from before sunrise to sunset. Step 1 is melting the brass in a traditional furnace, essentially bringing the metal to this glowing, highly volatile liquid state. Step 2, he's carefully pouring that glowing metal into custom, handcrafted molds. Step 3 is the dramatic physical reveal, actually breaking away the clay casting. Step 4 brings us to the super intricate work, shaping the finest details using just basic hand tools like chisels and files. And finally, Step 5, polishing the lamp until it absolutely gleams. This 5-step methodology wasn't just invented overnight. It's the culmination of generations of trial, error, and evolution, and it survives today pretty much solely through intense muscle memory.
I actually want to pause on Step 3 for a second because it's absolutely crucial to understanding why this craft is so unique. Clay casting removal. In this traditional crafting stage, the custom-made clay mold has to be physically broken and completely destroyed to reveal the rough brass shape hidden inside. Really think about what that means. Because the mold is destroyed every single time, you can literally never mass-produce identical copies. Every single lamp requires a brand new mold, so every single lamp is inherently one of a kind. It's like a giant puzzle where the pieces change every time. It just beautifully highlights how these traditional techniques evolved to prioritize unique craftsmanship over, infinite replication.
Once that rough brass is finally revealed, zooming right in on the micro details here, you see his weathered hands holding chisels, meticulously engraving intricate floral patterns directly into the brass. There's this quiet, intense pride happening here. He's a craftsman wholly dedicated to absolute perfection. He's not rushing to meet some corporate quota. Instead, he's patiently ensuring that the specific details his grandfather evolved and perfected are faithfully replicated by his own weathered hands today.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, the mass production shift, tradition versus modernity. The artisan remembers a time, back in the day when pretty much every single household in the village owned a locally handcrafted brass lamp made by someone just like him or his father. Those lamps represented warmth, tradition, a real local connection.
But let's be honest, today's market is entirely different. It's completely dominated by mass-produced, factory-made decorative items. Sure, they're cheaper and totally uniform, but they've fundamentally changed the macroeconomics of the whole trade. In this automated world where machines just flood the market with identical items, the distinct value of handcrafted art has shifted dramatically. And frankly, this is the massive existential threat to that generational evolution we just walked through.
So you've got to wonder, why does a 78-year-old man continue to work in a sweltering foundry battling every single day against this massive tide of cheap mass production? Well, he believes, quote, each handmade lamp carries the warmth of the hands that created it. For him, a factory machine just can't replicate the human soul that gets poured into an object. When you buy one of his lamps, you aren't just buying brass. You're taking home a piece of his history, the literal warmth of his furnace, and the unmatched dedication of his family's entire lineage.
Section 4. Shaping Light, the Legacy of the Golden Flame.
As dusk sets in, the day ends. The sounds of rhythmic hammering slowly fade away, replaced, maybe, by the sound of distant temple bells. The artisan takes his finished, perfectly polished brass piece, fills it with oil, and lights it. A golden flame suddenly illuminates the darkened workshop. Just picture that glowing light reflecting right in his eyes as he smiles softly, inspecting the finished piece. It's this incredibly poignant moment of quiet triumph. Against all odds, against the total dominance of modern mass production, he's successfully brought another masterpiece into the world, relying entirely on the evolved methods of his ancestors.
In his own words, as he looks at that flame, people think I made lamps, but all my life, I shaped light that would guide generations. And this brilliantly illustrates his final, powerful reflection on his life's work. He doesn't view himself simply as a metal worker, not at all. He is a preserver of heritage. He is literally shaping the very light that has illuminated his culture's prayers, festivals, and homes for centuries. He's keeping the flame of his ancestors alive right here in the modern age.
Which leaves us with this final thought to wrap up the explainer. The story of the last brass lamp maker in Mannar is beautiful, no doubt about it, but it's also a bit of a warning. As mass production takes over, we risk losing the warmth of the hands that created our world. So look around you today. What pieces of traditional craftsmanship, local art, or generational knowledge are fading in your own world, just waiting to be preserved? It's definitely something we all need to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.